Hello everyone. I found this image online and we will try to recreate this in Maya. So we will first look at how to create light falling on the floor, and then we will also try to add some depth of field so the background is blurred out. Um, and this is the result that I got. So we'll look at how to create the light falling on the floor effect, and then you can see that the edges of the wall and the floor are blurred out. So we'll look at depth of field and barn doors in Maya. Plus we'll model the dog. So we are in Maya now, and you can see that I have the heads up display that is will be used later on for depth of field. So if you go to display, heads up display, object details, that shows up. So to create the dog, I will start with a cube and we'll go to vertex. I'm not going to scale any object because we looked at it earlier that it messes up our texture maps and other things. So as soon as you create an object, start modeling it so that our scale value object mode. The scale value is always 1. Alright. So we have a long body for the dog, which is narrow, and that's about it. Edit mesh, bevel the edges to 0.25 and 3 subdivisions, maybe 4.3. Okay, so something that looks good. That will be the body. Then we will create, so we'll name it better dog. Create another object and call it dog face. Alright, so let us put it in place. So you can see that box is not in the center here. Alright, so again vertex mode. I want to scale this big and then scale this back, and that's about it. We'll go to face mode, select this face, scale, shift, scale inside, and shift and move inside. Okay, let us look at the left view, shading, wireframe, and we can scale this inside so it matches. Alright, so we got the head. We'll go to object mode, edit mesh, bevel, and 3 here, and then the bevel needs to be bigger, 0.8, 0.7. Okay, that looks good. Okay, edit, delete by type history for this, edit, delete by type history for this, create another cube, we'll create the legs, and I'm going to create all the 4 legs same to save time in modeling. Vertex. So we'll select the whole thing, scale it up, and then the base is wider, so we can scale it out. Okay, maybe a little bit here also. Alright, now what I'll do is I'll go to edge and I'll select this, shift this, 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 and I'm going to bevel these to say a bigger number, 0.74. Alright, so that looks good. Object mode and then bevel the whole thing. 0.9, increase the sequence to 3 or something, and that looks good. Okay, so real quick, we finished modeling. The legs are kind of long, so go to the vertex mode and scale it up. Okay, so there in the middle, go down, little left, middle, go down more in the front. So let us work in the left view here, slightly in the middle here, rotate, Control D to duplicate, rotate it in the front, and need to match here. Maybe that's too much. You can work with specific angles if you want. Alright. Control D to duplicate, and I never renamed them, so I have to rename those. But don't worry about it. Let us create the tail. Vertex, scale it, rotate it, scale it. Maybe slightly up. Object mode, move it close. Edit mesh, bevel 3. Alright. So we got our dog model. The head is going to look down. Okay. So that's our basic modeling done. Okay, looks similar. Okay, let us move him above the ground. That's our ground there. Maybe in the middle of the ground. Alright, so it has a wood texture, so I'm going to select the head. Okay, select everything, edit, delete by type history, clean everything up. We need the face of this. Go to edit mesh, extract, so it becomes a separate object. Edit, delete by type history. We will name this dock face light. Alright, so now this object assign new material. We'll go to Arnold shader and standard surface. Okay, so name it wood. We need to find a wood material. So go to file, and I have some wood material saved here. Okay, like this one, the 6 key on the keyboard. So you see the material, and then I'm going to assign the same material to all of these. Okay, so I'm not really worried about how the material looks. This is good enough for me. Create a plane, and we don't need any segments, so I'll get rid of the segments. Scale this big. Control D, 90 degrees, Control D, $90. So I created the two walls, move them up. This one goes back, this one goes back this side. Alright, so this is our basic setup. Now we need lights. So I'll select this one, and we'll assign a new material to it. Assign new material, shader, Arnold standard surface, dock face light, and delete by type history. Emission is going to emit light. So go to Arnold light, and then you can see that it's creating light in the scene. Then in the outliner, we have the dock face and dock face light. Okay, so now we will make this into Arnold lights mesh light. That's what I was looking for. I didn't add it and I was looking for it. So we add a mesh light and make the intensity of 4. So now we have a light in the scene, and that will add light. If you go to Arnold lights, now it casts light. So if you look at the scene, we have some light coming from the left and a reddish light coming from the front. So we'll go to Arnold lights, area light. We'll go to this light here. It's above the ground, rotated in this direction. We need to stop this because it's taking time. And this is 90 degrees. We can rotate it slightly down, and this light attribute editor is going to be red in color. Okay, and maybe an exposure of 4. So let us turn it on, and you can see that light is there. You can scale it up. Move it up in air if you want. Alright, so now Control B, move it back, rotate it in around. It's going to be white. This light is coming from the back. It's even bigger. Okay, so you can see that light is from the back, and then these lights have exposure of 4 each. So then we need one more light for the light falling on the floor. Okay, so for that we are going to use a spotlight. So we'll go to rendering, we'll create a spotlight. Rotate the light around. I'm going to stop this. Things are moving slow. This needs to be stopped. Alright, so again, minus 90. Place it in the center. Point it down. And render it. Okay, this is also a good time to add a camera and do the camera setup. Create cameras, camera, panels, perspective camera. View, camera settings, resolution gate. Alright, so none of our light, this light shouldn't be in the scene, it should be outside. Okay, so this is what we get. Okay, so this is our scene. What we need is this light has to have barn doors. So we'll go to light, Arnold, and we're going to use a light filter, which is barn door. Okay, and once that's barn door here, you can double click or go back. This is never could figure out this. Alright, so we have these settings for the barn door, and these are like some strange numbers. So basically this is the softness of the light, and this is how much the barn door is open. So I'm going to use 0.2 here, 0.2, and then this becomes 0.8. So we add 0.2 there and remove 0.2 from the numbers. 0.8, 0.8. What are the properties of this light? Arnold, render. Let us render this. Okay, let us see if this one is inside. No, it is outside. So spotlight, Arnold, exposure 6. Let us try that. And there you go. We didn't have any exposure, so we got exposure now. And this light is not visible because dark face light. I have to select the light, show original mesh. That was not on, so now you see that one. And now we need that softness for our light. This light, okay, so we have exposure of 6, and in the barn doors we added these numbers, and now we will add the softness. Let us keep this open here, and if we increase this to 0.5, 0.1, you can see that this area became soft, then the bottom area became soft, the left or the right and the left. Okay, so that adds softness. And then if this is 0.7 or 0.5, you can see the width of that changes. Okay, one will become roundish and this 0.8 will create that. Okay, so hereafter it is just a matter of playing with our lights and intensity and exposure. So this light, we can increase the exposure to 6. This light exposure can increase to 6, and things looking nice. Alright, so the last thing we need to do is add depth of field. So as I said, we go to display, heads up display, object details, and we need the camera, and then we need to go to the camera Arnold properties, and here we turn depth of field on, and we need to focus on the head. So we select the head, and the distance from camera for the head is 11.47. So I'll select this and type 11.47 here. Okay, and aperture, if there is 0 aperture, you will not see any depth of field. 1 will be, everything will be blurry, 0.5 is good. So if you render this out, you will get that blurriness. Okay, and that's the end of our tutorial. So if you look at the aperture size of 0, nothing will be in, everything will be in focus. So you get those sharp edges for the corners of the room. Okay, and if the aperture size is 1, everything blurs out. Okay, you can see that even the head, only the middle of the head is in focus, everything else is out of focus. So 0.5 seems like a good number. Okay, and then there is a lot of grain because of depth of field. So you can, if you want, even the front of the head is little blurred. So you can go to say 0.3. And you can see that the renders are pretty fast on my computer. But there is blurriness, so we will go to render settings, Arnold, and camera. We will double it from 3 to 6. Diffuse becomes 2 to 4. Specular becomes 2 to 4. Transmission we are not really using. Everything else is not important. And that should be it. This will be the final render. This is going to take double the time, but still it's pretty fast. So you can bump up the numbers further if you want a real good quality. Again, this is not even 1280 by 720. It is smaller than that, but then you can make it 1280 by 720 and then let it render for like say 5 or 10 minutes, and you get, that is my specs. If you have a lower specs, it may take even longer. But we looked at how to create depth of field. We looked at how to create barn doors, and we added lights to recreate an image like this in less than half an hour in Maya. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and keep tuned for more tutorials in the future. Thank you very much. Let us see how the final render looks, and we'll call it a day. So I also create tutorials on animation, 3ds Max, Blender. So if you are into those other softwares, visit my channel, look at the playlists. There are playlists divided in animation and modeling and different software. Okay, so happy learning.